and welcome to the 102nd Speech Night event. My name is Katya Halstead and I'll be your MC for tonight. I was honored to have been chosen as the winner of the 100th Speech Night competition and to have been given the opportunity to also MC our 50th anniversary Speech Night celebration last semester. I also work at the IUPUI Speakers Lab as a mentor and graphic designer. Now let's meet the finalists of the 102nd Speech Night competition. Our first speaker of the night is Yaslin Fineska. She is a sophomore studying biomedical engineering with a minor in mathematics. She plans to go to medical school after graduation, and one fun fact about Yaslin is that she likes anime, drawing, and soccer. She's taking R110 speech with Professor Dina David, and her speech is entitled Implementation of a Sexual Assault Unit. Let's all welcome Yaslin Fineska.
Safety. That is what you should think of when you think of home. For many college students, college campuses become their new home, a place they believe they will be safe. On September the 19th, 2021, there was a reported case of rape in a stairwell in University Tower, a place believed to be safe. It is a place where I breathe a sigh of relief every time I make it to my dorm safely while walking at night. Sexual assault refers to any sexual contact or behavior that occurs without the explicit consent of the victim. It can refer to any unwanted sexual contact, attempted rape, and rape. At IUPUI, there have been reports of sexual assault from the dorms to the business building. Sexual assault can happen anywhere, anytime, any place, and can happen to anyone of different ages, gender, and sexual orientation. Having taken a sexual assault course online before, I can attest that the definition of sexual assault was made clear in addition to learning preventative techniques as a potential victim as well as bystander intervention. The issue of sexual assault remains an issue on our IUPUI campus that can be reduced with the implementation of a sexual assault prevention unit during first-year seminar courses that can teach about consent, preventative techniques, and safety and supportive resources available at IUPUI. At IUPUI, 51% of students think sexual misconduct is a problem on campus, according to news at IUPUI. About 80% of sexual assaults and rapes go unreported, according to the Justice Department analysis of violent crime in 2016. The unknown definition of sexual assault contributes to the failure of reporting unreported incidents. The National Institute of Justice claims that half of student victims don't define an incident as rape if there is no weapon used, no involvement of alcohol, or if the perpetrator is known by the victim. About 85 to 90% of sexual assaults that were reported by college women were done by someone the victim knew, where half occurred on dates. According to Jiegel from Life Science, freshman students are in a red zone risk, meaning they're more prone to being victims. According to a survey of 16,000 college students from 22 universities in the United States, a much higher percentage of students were sexually victimized during freshman year than any other school year category. Jiegel suggests that the red zone risk has to do with students coming in with an inexperience on how to handle alcohol, inexperience in preventative techniques at parties, and coming in with a lack of sexual assault knowledge, as well as not knowing the safety and supportive resources offered at their campuses. Sexual assault survivors can also have traumatic long-term effects. Erie County, Ohio expressed how sexual assault survivors can go into shock after being sexually assaulted. They can experience overwhelming fear, anxiety, shame, depression. They can also, with the right support system, they can learn to overcome and cope with these traumatic effects. But what if they don't have that support system? Survivors are more prone to eating and sleeping disorders like anorexia, bulimia, insomnia, and constant nightmares reliving the trauma. They can think about hurting themselves or turn to alcohol and drugs as a way to cope with these traumatic effects. They are more prone to developing post-traumatic stress disorder and panic attacks. Some can't even have romantic relationships after the assault. This is why an early implementation step is needed. The implementation of the Sexual Assault Prevention Unit during first-year seminar courses here at IUPUI. I'm specifically asking for the sexual preventative programs to take place during first-year seminar courses because every freshman is required to take these courses. The training would preferably be done at the beginning of the semester when more attendance can be seen. The U.S. News & World Report covered a story on how universities are handling sexual assault. The University of Iowa implemented a class called Flip the Script. Flip the Script teaches preventative techniques as well as teaching women how to identify potential perpetrators and focuses on promoting confidence in women. Flip the Script conducted a survey for up to 2 years where it was found to cut the number of rapes experienced by women in the program in half and the number of attempted rapes by 63%, compared to a group of women who didn't attend the program. The University of Maryland implemented a sexual violence prevention program throughout its 4 years of undergraduate. The incoming students at the University of Wisconsin and Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh must complete an online sexual assault prevention unit before coming to campus and then take in-person training once they get to campus. A sexual assault prevention program called Enhance, Assess, Acknowledge, Act program conducted a trial among first-year university students where it was found to cut the number of completed rapes by 46% and the number of attempted rapes by 63%, according to Dockery from Medium.com. Although there is no uniform definition on what a preventative program is, there are many forms it can take. According to PubMed Central, a preventative program can teach relationship-based prevention and behavior-presented prevention. Additionally, these prevention programs can educate on the definition of sexual assault, what consent is, and debunking rape culture, and showing that the victim is not to blame. It can also teach preventative techniques like being aware of your surroundings, walking with a friend, and staying in well-lit areas, as well as walking through public places at night. According to Indiana University's Stop Sexual Violence page, anyone who is under 21 and under the influence of alcohol will not be persecuted for the intoxication, consumption, and possession of alcohol if they call for cases related to sexual assault or medical treatment. Additionally, teaching bystander intervention can also be implemented. According to a survey I conducted in my R110 speech class, about 61.5% of students claim to not know what next steps or actions to take as a bystander witnessing sexual assault. Lastly, teaching what next steps to take as to who to report to or where to find safety and supportive resources available on campus can also be implemented. According to this survey done in my R110 speech class, 76.9% of students claim to not know what next steps to take as to where they could receive support if they were to be sexually assaulted. The downside to this program is that it would mostly be putting pressure on the potential victim as well as the bystanders. And it would also be only mandatory to incoming freshmen. Sexual assault is an issue that can happen to anyone, any place, anytime. IUPUI can take a stance against this and show no tolerance by implementing a sexual assault prevention unit that can educate students on consent, preventative techniques, and safety and supportive resources available here at IUPUI. I encourage you to reach out to your first-year seminar course instructor and talk about implementing a sexual assault prevention unit through the course approval and remonstrance system by scanning the QR code. Additionally, I encourage you to continue educating yourself on bystander and preventative techniques, as well as safety and supportive resources available here at IUPUI. If you ever feel unsafe, call the Safe Walk program. If you're in immediate danger, call 911. If you want to report a case of sexual assault, call the IUPD number. Here, show below.
Speaker 2 tonight is Halima Alouche. She is a freshman preparing for medical school by majoring in biology with minors in public health and chemistry. She is also a PLTL chemistry recitation leader and enjoys cooking and reading. One fun fact about Halima is that she is fluent in English and Arabic. Her professor is Angela Sisson, and her speech is entitled Diversity in Undergrad. Please join me in welcoming Halima Alouche.
The Constitution of the United States of America says that all men are created equal, with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And yet, we see that that hasn't always been the case, whether historically or in the modern era. One of the areas where inequality disparities continue to exist in disproportionate amounts is higher education. And many of us, as college students here today, have bore witness to this, whether it was through ourselves or through our peers. I personally, as a member of several minority groups, feel not just qualified, but obligated to speak on this matter in order to advocate for change towards a more equal future. In order to better ourselves, our institution, and our legislature, we should not just be satisfied with what's being done to bridge the inequality gaps that currently exist, but rather strive and challenge them. Today, you will learn about what inequalities in education exist, why we must address them, and what change can be created. To further identify the issue, As it stands currently, according to NPR and the National Center for Education Statistics, or the NCES, the amount of people in certain demographics entering undergrad is not proportionate to those demographics' public school population, the largest gaps being between individuals who identify as Black or Hispanic. Taking a look at the screen here, we can see that this fall public elementary and secondary school enrollment will be 48% white, 16% Black, and 27% Hispanic. And yet when we look at the undergrad stats, it's 57% white, 14% Black, and 19% Hispanic. We can even take a look at IU statistics, our parent school. While there's been a dramatic increase between the 1990s to now in both Black and Hispanic enrollment rates, we're still behind the national enrollment for both demographics. Once again, taking a look at the screen, we can see that between 1990 to now, Hispanic increase has been 500%, Black increase has been 20%, and yet we're still behind the national enrollment rate. Further studies conducted by the NCES show that Black and Hispanic students are also less likely to graduate. Upon looking at federal data, compared to their white peers, minority students are significantly underrepresented in STEM majors, such as mathematics, engineering, education, and other life and physical sciences, which could point to either implicit bias in the advising process or students avoiding more expensive fields in the form of lab fees or the requirement of graduate school. Also, in comparison to their white peers, many Black and Hispanic students earn their credentials in for-profit institutions and are more likely to go with schools with lower SAT rates, lower first-year retention rates, and graduate with more debt. Further looking at the NCES website, Black and Hispanic students are less likely to graduate in only 4 years. This begs the question, what can be done to address this issue? There are several ways in which universities can better support their students. The first comes in the form of student recruitment processes. Universities could send out representatives or recruiters in areas with high minority population. Secondly, providing student support in the form of check-ins and campus counselors and mentors could serve to lower minority dropout rates. Most importantly, affirmative action as it stands today is not enough. Yes, there should be better support systems implemented for minority students who enter their undergrad, but how can those systems be implemented when many students can't even enter the university to begin with? To discuss this more in detail, according to a new study done by the Hettinger Report, last year alone, over 900,000 low-income students, many of whom were people of color, who both applied and were found eligible for financial aid, never received it. And this isn't the case for just a few states. In 10 states, more than half the eligible students didn't receive a grant due to these states running out of money. My solution is that if students were given a grant, not only could they afford to stay in school, which could lower dropout rates for many people of color, but in the case of dropping out, a grant, rather than a loan, would ensure not being crippled by student debt for years to come. Another point of discussion. As we can see from the data, 19% of Black students, 23% of Hispanic students, and 21% of Pacific Islander students take more than 4 years to graduate. But many students who take more than 4 years to graduate end up dropping out due to the increase in price or their grants and scholarships running out. So at the end of their 4 years, all they have to show for their time in university is student debt rather than a degree for things that are not their fault. 45.4 million Americans have debt, and this grand total is 1.75 trillion US dollars. However, Black graduates hold the most student debt, averaging $52,000 compared to their average white students' $28,000. It's no wonder that money is a deterrent in people of color choosing to go to college. The key to many students who drop out being able to afford to re-enroll later on is to make college more accessible. And to address this, a policy should be put into place that serves traditionally underrepresented demographics student aid in the form of a grant for the entirety of their undergrad, even if it's more than 4 years. And we can make this change now, today, by contacting our senators. But I get it. You must be thinking to yourself right now, I'm just a student though. What real power do I have to change state and federal policy? Some of the greatest movements in history, like the American Revolution, women's suffrage, and even the Civil Rights era, started out as grassroots movements carried out by a few individuals. We, as students, have the power to change legislature, rewrite history, and help people rise to their full potential with equal opportunity to knowledge and education. By contacting those in Congress who represent us, we can advocate for better change. Whether it's a letter, email, or fax, by contacting our local senators and asking for more grants and a more accessible education, change is more than possible on both the state and federal level. Thank you so much for your time.
Our third speaker of the evening is Natalie Colton with Moffat Craig. Natalie is majoring in English literature with a minor in creative writing. In her future, she'd like to either become a publisher or an editor, and in her free time, Natalie likes to read and write poetry. Let's all welcome Natalie Colton and her speech entitled Carbon. It's in your hands.
Indiana is ranked number 12 in terms of energy usage, according to the United States Energy Ranking Association. And we're ranked second in terms of carbon emissions per capita, according to the Indianapolis Star. It's well known that Indiana is far behind in the green initiative, and pushing green legislation in our state is incredibly difficult. But luckily, there's a lot you and I can do about it. We need to change our personal policies concerning our carbon footprints, because we, the people, drive our government and its legislation, and our shopping and habits mold companies and how they adapt to our needs. How we shop and operate changes everything. I've been a bit of an environmentalist for a while now, and I've done a lot of research on green policies and activism. And I have found that more than lobbying and more than protesting, it's the people's everyday actions that drive legislation and hold companies accountable for their actions. Today, I'm going to be asking you guys to take a photograph of my last slide. It will have some links to more tips on how you can shop sustainably, because Indiana's carbon emissions is a huge problem. And shopping sustainably is a great solution that would benefit us all. So just how bad is Indiana's carbon emissions, and what does that have to do with us? Well, according to the Indianapolis Star, in 2018, our little state pumped 190 million metric tons of carbon into the atmosphere, carbon being the main driver of climate change. And we little guys are really going to pay for this. And I don't mean environmentally, like is always talked about. I mean financially, we are literally going to pay for this. According to a Purdue assessment on climate change, our needs for electricity are going to rise significantly just to keep ourselves cool in the summer. About a 23 to 28%, in fact. That's a 23 to 28% increase in our electricity bills every summer. And that's not the only variable. According to that same Purdue study, our power plants are going to start to struggle to produce power in the first place. Because of the rising temperatures and unstable weather conditions, our efficiency in distribution of energy is going to decrease significantly. With a greater demand and less energy to be had, that means that prices are going to skyrocket. Your electricity bill could be as high as the sky sometime soon. And that's not the only thing to rise. Again, because of the rising heat and unstable weather conditions for Indiana, that means more tornadoes and more flooding rains and a lot of damage. Our state is going to have to pay for those repairs somehow, which means our taxes are bound to increase significantly as well. And it's not only your wallet that's going to hurt, your lungs too. With global warming brings a plummet in air quality. And we need air in order to heal from all illnesses, which means that all illnesses, death rates are going to rise significantly. Because of this, one of our local representatives, Matt Pierce, says, "I don't think there are many priorities that could be more important than ensuring a clean environment." And he's right. Many experts agree that climate change is one of the most pressing issues facing the United States today. The United Nations called it a code red for humanity. And I know that these doomsday predictions can be quite overwhelming. We could be made to feel rather helpless in the face of this mounting issue, but luckily there's a lot of solutions that we little guys can take advantage of. According to that Purdue study, a little change in Indiana's policies could have a huge impact for the better. And we can lead this change by living by example. We can change our shopping habits to signal large companies and legislators to grow and adapt to our new needs. Surprisingly, one of the best ways to shop sustainably is to shop online. According to Tim Hefferman of the New York Times, shopping online greatly increases the efficiency in which goods and services are delivered to each home. Because one truck driving around delivering multiple packages is far more efficient than multiple cars driving to the same store. Also consider grouping your packages to reduce waste and increase that efficiency even more. Next up, groceries, the most shopped for item in each home. You can't exactly buy these guys online. So locally, our friends at Foodprint have a few tips for us. First of all, buy what you need and what you need only. Any food that goes to waste is a waste of your money and of the resources it took to get it to your table. Buy local to lower transportation emissions and buy organic to lower pollution rates. Lastly, bring your own bags to the grocery store and avoid products with excess packaging, as all that plastic is just a waste. Lastly are a few tips by Harper's Bazaar on buying items and clothing. First of all, have you ever heard of the 30 uses test? It's a simple question where you ask yourself, am I going to use this item 30 times or more? If the answer is no, put the item back on the shelf. This saves you money and emissions by preventing you from buying items that you would just end up throwing away anyway. Next, consider thrifting. This one's great because it saves you a lot of money, along with the fact that used products cost zero emissions to make and sell, meaning that they have a net zero carbon footprint. Also consider the multiple uses of every item in your home. Consider your mixing bowl, for example. It's not just for baking cakes, is it? You can also use it as a popcorn bowl. Now imagine having two separate bowls for each task. It's just wasteful and it clutters up your home. Lastly, Harper's Bazaar asks us to look after our items. If you rip your shirt, consider taking it to a seamstress. A new shirt could cost you at minimum about $20, but a repair could be as little as $5. It's cheaper to take care of your items than it is to replace them. And replacing items is a bit wasteful. Also, be sure to look out for and read the care instructions of every item you buy. Broken items, again, are just wasteful of emissions and your money. Lastly, remember to start slow. I know this is a long list of items, and if you do a single thing off of it, it would be better than nothing. And I know that changing your habits can be incredibly difficult, but the benefits greatly outweigh the effort. Not only will this save you the horror-inducing electricity bills I mentioned before, but according to Sustainability Victoria, this will benefit the entire planet. First of all, the environment will thank you. Buying less and polluting less means that the environment will be destroyed less, and less carbon in the air means less climate change and less unstable weather, which would destroy our environment as well. And your health is sure to benefit as well. With better air, we can heal better from all of our illnesses, and the death toll will lower significantly. And with less climate change, there's less death tolls from natural disasters as well. Sustainability Victoria also points out the benefits for local businesses. Shopping local is a huge part of lowering emissions, and local means local businesses. With COVID still in the air, a lot of these businesses took a huge hit, so this is really needed right now. And shopping sustainably also helps workers across the globe. Fast fashion, for example, is really hurt by thrifting, and these are the kinds of companies that exploit their workers and pollute their own neighborhoods. In conclusion, Indiana's carbon emissions is a huge problem, but we can lead the change and make a difference by learning to shop a little bit more sustainably for the benefit of the entire planet. Please take a photograph of this last slide and look into the links for more tips on how to shop more sustainably. It would have a huge impact on the world around us. You can lead the charge to make a difference in this world. It would take a few seconds out of your day, but we would all feel the benefits for years to come.
Speaker for tonight is Phutawon. He is majoring in biology in addition to pursuing a certificate in theater and performance. After graduation, he wants to go to medical school in hopes of becoming a pediatrician. In his free time, Connor likes to read, bake, go on road trips, and hang out with friends. He's taking R110 with Professor Katie Shannon. His speech is entitled, Park at Your Own Risk. Please join me in welcoming Phutawon.
Let's imagine a scenario, shall we? You're a student here at IUPUI who pays to park. you pay the whopping $485.90 a year it takes just to park your car in the Blackford parking garage. On top of your tuition, books, fees, and personal expenses, you pay to keep your car in a proposed safe and secure environment. Now, you park your car and go about your day, going to class, taking exams, whatever your day may entail. But when you return to your car at the end of your long day, you come to find that one of your tires has been slashed. The car that you thought was safe in a student parking garage has been damaged. You're stranded, and to top it all off, the school has no idea who did it. This nightmare became a reality for multiple individuals earlier this year. As Jaguars here at IUPUI, you may have to utilize one of the many parking services here on campus. You may have your car in Blackford, Vermont, Gateway, or any of the campus lots, but nonetheless, you let your car sit unattended for hours, maybe days at a time, in the hopes that when you return, it'll be perfectly safe and sound. I personally have my car at the Blackford parking garage. I pay the fee to keep my car in a, once again, safe and secure environment. And while nothing bad has happened to my car, I have seen the struggles my peers have faced, and have seen firsthand the crimes that continue to occur in our parking facilities. Through extensive research and an exploration into the world of campus parking, I have come to recognize the weaknesses and flaws it bears. The safety within IUPUI's parking facilities is a pressing issue that requires immediate change, and today I will discuss how we can come together as a community to prevent crime in them before they even occur. It can be easily established that parking lots and garages are a hotspot for crime to occur. If we take a look at the FBI's Crime Data Explorer, in 2020, 19,031 violent crimes occurred in the state of Indiana, with 1,110 of those occurring in a parking garage or lot. That means that of the murders, robberies, rapes, and assaults occurring in our state, over 7% of them were occurring in a place where our community members find themselves every single day. And being in Indianapolis, an already dangerous city with crime rates on the rise, safety should be a #1 priority. And even with the safety precautions in place, crime continues to occur. If we take a look at IUPUI's daily crime log for the past 60 days, of the 218 crimes that have been reported, a whopping 48 of them have occurred in a campus lot or garage. And these numbers don't even begin to describe the specific criminal events that have been occurring. In September of 2021 and February of 2022, IUPD put out statements detailing the rise in catalytic car converter thefts on campus. And instead of offering solutions on what they were going to be doing to prevent the rise, they offered ideas on what we as drivers should be doing instead, with many of these seeming impossible due to lack of funds or lack of parking spaces. As mentioned before, in January of 2022, multiple cars were found to have their tires slashed at Blackford parking garage. These students were not alerted of the crime until they had reached their car, and when asked for assistance, were told that it happened to multiple people, and that there was nothing that could be done about it. These crimes could have easily been prevented if not for the weak safety precautions in place within our parking facilities. Emergency call boxes are a great tool here on campus. If any crimes were to occur, it helps students have direct access to 911. But in reality, many of these call boxes are non-functional or placed in far-off locations. For example, this is one of the call boxes from the entrance of Blackford parking garage. You can't see that blue light? Let me zoom in for you. Still can't see it? There it is. In addition, there's an extreme lack of cameras within our parking garages and over lots. There are only about 1 or 2 cameras facing the stairwells within our parking garages. And while this may help prevent any crime that occurs in our stairwells, it completely ignores our vehicle or any JAGs walking to them. Now that you can see the issues plaguing our parking facilities, there are many logical solutions on how we can fix them. If we take a look at IU Parking's website, there's a statement that says the Indiana University parking system is a self-supporting service, receiving no funds from the state of Indiana, the university budget, or student fees. All monies derived from the parking system are used to operate, maintain, improve, and expand all IUPUI parking lots, facilities, and equipment supporting the parking system. Now, if we take a look at one of the garage's capacities and the prices of ST and VGS permit prices, it can be estimated that IU Parking is making about $450,000 a year, and that's just from one garage. I propose that these funds be put to better use to install better safety precautions within our parking facilities. For starters, more cameras should be added to our parking garages and over lots. A study researching the effectiveness of CCT technology in preventing crime found that surveillance systems were most effective in parking lots, where their use resulted in a 51% decrease in crime. Cameras can help catch crime as they occur, while also preventing any crime from occurring in the first place. And if any crime was to occur, it helps our institution better learn from their mistakes and stop it from occurring in the future. In addition to that, Crimson Card technology, scanner technology should be implemented at every entrance to our garages. This technology is already being utilized in our residence halls, so why shouldn't it be used in our parking garages? And lastly, these funds should be used to help create more emergency call boxes towards the parking sites themselves and immediately fix any non-functional call boxes that we may have. These safety precautions will not only create a safer environment for our vehicles, but for the Jaguars getting behind the wheel. Now, if we take a look at IUPUI's Security and Fire Safety Report for 2021, it was found that over the past 3 years, a whopping 30 motor vehicle thefts have happened on campus. But if we take a look at two of our closest universities, Butler University and University of Indianapolis, and look at their safety reports, we find that University of Indianapolis had 21 motor vehicle thefts, while Butler had a mere 4. These statistics show that there's something that these other schools are doing that IUPUI is not. In a 2015 news article, Butler University was reported to adding new camera systems all over their campus. From parking lots to trails, about 70 surveillance cameras are being added to campus, and that number continues to rise. This statistic just shows how if we implemented the same technology as Butler University, we could see a similar number in our trends to their mere 4. In addition, in 2010, Rice University in Houston, Texas, added about 80 new emergency call boxes around campus, and a year later found that despite the city of Houston's crime rates remaining high, the crime rate on campus plummeted by 67.74%. Once again, this shows that if we were to implement more emergency call boxes with cameras, we could see a similar number in our trends. If IUPUI continues to ignore these issues at hand and jeopardize the safety of our students and our staff, they also jeopardize the safety of our visitors and anyone that comes to see them. I urge you to if you want to ensure the safety of both your Jaguars, your vehicles, and anyone that comes to campus, I urge you to take a stand and voice your opinion to IUPUI officials and IU Parking. I personally plan on writing to IU President Pamela Whitten in the hopes that real change can be implemented here on campus. As Jaguars, you can sign this petition to add more cameras to parking garages and overlots, add more call boxes with cameras to spots, and fixing any non-functional ones while adding Crimson Card scanner technology to our parking garages. Today, I've talked about the issues plaguing our parking facilities, and you have seen firsthand the crimes that continue to occur and what needs to be done to keep you safe. As you walk back to your safely parked car today, I hope you take into account all the dangers that can occur to you and what needs to be done to keep you safe. Thank you.
Our fifth speaker tonight is Erin Rakes. She is a junior majoring in nursing. After graduation, she hopes to become an international humanitarian and work as a nurse. In her free time, Erin likes to read and write and is working on becoming fluent in French. She's taking R110 with Teresa Tackett. For her speech entitled To Be a Humanitarian, please join me in welcoming Erin Rakes.
A young woman looks up at the sky and sees bombs raining down from above. All around her, trenches are dug to hold the dead. In another country, children might die from something as small as a hangnail due to lack of education and no access to proper health care. For millions of people, this is the sad reality of their everyday life. They don't have a roof over their head, a car to make trips when it's snowing outside, or access to antibiotics when they get a sickness like pneumonia. They need a humanitarian to offer the basic necessities that every human should have. They need you. You didn't choose your life. You are not superior to these people. You were simply born with just a little bit of luck. You have the opportunity and privilege to be able to help these people without compromising your life. Will you? For me, my life will not be complete unless I find a way to make a difference. I've started small. I've donated blood. I've worked with food pantries and donations. And I'm currently working toward a career in international humanitarian aids as a nurse. So, why does the world need you as a humanitarian? What kind of jobs and volunteering can you find in this field? And what difference does humanitarian work actually make? Let's walk through that together. We often live in a bubble and don't see the need of others around the world, but if we opened our eyes to the struggles of those around us, we would see that many people are denied basic human rights, and that only we, as humans, can help. Roughly 689 million people live in extreme poverty on less than $1.90 a day. And, even worse, About 70% of people over 15 in these situations have little or no education, according to Andrea Pear's Global Poverty with World Vision. That means that these people are not just denied the things they need to live a healthy life, they also don't even know how to fix their situations. They don't have the education they need to get into a good university and a better economy, and they may not even know things that we take for granted, like the need for proper hygiene or how to avoid bacteria and viruses. These people need us to pop our cozy little bubble, hear their pleas for help, and to remember the golden rule from our childhoods. After all, to be a humanitarian is to wish for those around you and the communities you are working with what you wish for yourself. It is to treat others like you wish to be treated, states Suad Jarbawi, a humanitarian response director with Mercy Corps in Iraq. Isn't that the definition of the golden rule? Besides, this isn't a life sentence for you. You have a nice, comfortable life that you can come home to. The people targeted by these organizations, however, need you. They have nowhere else to go, and a smiling, compassionate face offering them a warm meal and blanket for the night could make all the difference to them. If you do go abroad, they work in terms of a few months to a year. Surely you can spare a few months of your life to help those that may never have known comfort. Now, maybe going abroad isn't for you. Don't worry, there are still ways that you can help. Humanitarian aid has been proven to help, and there isn't just one way to be a humanitarian. According to Ibro Arzika, a project officer with Mercy Corps in Nigeria, being a humanitarian is helping communities identify their opportunities and challenges, and helping them believe in themselves and look for sustainable answers for real change. Now, how do we do that? On the larger scale, an organization and its workers would travel across the world and aid the local government and its institutions in figuring out how to better their situations, and then helping them get there. On a smaller but still important scale would be to donate blood, money, and necessities to these communities to help them get back on their feet. That is something everyone can do from the comfort of their hometown. Human Rights Careers 20 Humanitarian Careers offers a list of 20 jobs, such as social worker, nurse, nutritionist, farming experts, engineers, social media communications officers, and more. No matter what your field is or what you're good at, there is almost guaranteed to be a job for you in the humanitarian field. Every organization helps in its own way, each slightly different, and they have helped tremendously over the years. Since 1990, humanitarian organizations have helped the number of children under 5 that die from preventable causes to drop from 34,200 a day to 14,200. That is less than half, according to Andrea Pear's Global Poverty with World Vision, but there is still a long way to go. To offer a current instance, right now, the organization Doctors Without Borders is across seas helping the Ukrainian refugees to have food and shelter. It isn't glorious work, and it won't get you rich, but to people like the Ukrainian refugees, it means a night with a warm meal out of the cold elements. To show you just how much of an impact you can have by helping, I'll ask you to close your eyes. To show you just how much of an impact that you can make, picture this with me. Imagine a young woman wearing worn-out clothing, kneeling on the dusty ground as she holds her toddler that has just passed away. He knocked his head while playing, as many children do, but lack of health care meant his head got infected and he died from it. She is sobbing and rocking a child that should never have been taken so young. Now picture this. Your organization was there making sure vaccines and medications were distributed to those that needed it, and this young mom is instead holding her smiling toddler while she cries happy tears and his wound turns to a faded scar. On a local scale, a single father is at risk of eviction and has just received the call that his teenage daughter was in a car accident. She is going to die without a blood transfusion, and these new medical bills will bury the father. But thanks to humanitarians like you, she receives the blood she needs, and a local shelter has enough volunteers to be able to take them in until they get back on their feet. It isn't a perfect fix, but he still has his daughter and a roof over his head. You may open your eyes. Some aspects of humanitarian work take planning. Some can be done now. After this speech, please use redcrossblood.org to find a location near you to donate blood. Or you can go to networks.whyhunger.org to find a local food bank to volunteer at. If you prefer going into a place instead of online, there is a Habitat for Humanity location here in Indy on Highway 40. Start small today, and if you still feel driven, look into humanitarian organizations, find one that suits you, fulfill any requirements they may have, and take your mission abroad. So now you know why the world needs you to be a humanitarian, some jobs and volunteering you can find in the field, and just how much of an impact you can have by helping. In the end, aren't we all humans searching for love and comfort? And if something happened to strip your life of relative comfort from your hands, wouldn't you be desperate for someone to offer you just a shred of it back? Will you take a small part of your life to help those that are struggling to find something good in their days? Or will you turn a blind eye to their struggle? Thank you.
Our sixth speaker of the evening is Abdullahi Warsame. He's a freshman majoring in computer science, and after graduation, he hopes to become a software engineer. One fun fact is that he is from Seattle. He is taking R110 with Professor Roxanne Terhune, and his speech is entitled Sex Work in America. Let's welcome Abdullahi Warsame.
Let's talk everybody's favorite subject, sex. Prostitution as a profession is ancient, with written records dating back to the year 2400 BC. According to Britannica, the earliest mention is found in the Sumerian records, and since then, mentions of it have appeared everywhere from Hammurabi's code detailing the rights of a prostitute, to Assyrian law demanding they dress in a way which distinguishes them from other women. The rest of the ancient world either fully legalized, heavily regulated, or completely outlawed the practice, with horrific punishments for offenders. By punishment, I mean branded with hot iron, melted asphalt poured on their heads, and dismemberment, among other things. The point I'm making is that throughout these thousands of years, prostitution has withstood the test of time and proved itself in remaining permanent. Locally speaking in Indiana, the acts of prostitution itself, as well as patronizing and promoting prostitution, according to SQ law, is classified as a Class A misdemeanor, which is punishable by a $5,000 fine as well as a sentence of up to 1 year in prison. And that's only for first-time offenders. When you take one look at legislation passed by sex work-friendly nations, most notably the Netherlands, we will find no increase in the number of prostitutes. Instead, the nation saw an increase in legal brothels that followed rules and regulations, and ultimately led to sex workers gaining safer working environments, as well as unemployment benefits, as typical of any other job. History has shown and proven that sex work as an industry has exploited the disenfranchised and propagated negative ramifications, such as the human trafficking industry as well as sexual violences and diseases. And it's been shown through legalization that the exploitation in sex work can actually be combated by passing law and regulations other legal industries already benefit from. According to AG Legal Resources, prostitution is among the most dangerous professions, with a death rate of 204 per 100,000. Sex workers on average are physically attacked once a month. Why? Simply because they're easy targets with nobody to turn to. Because when they do, every year 70,000 to 80,000 are arrested, costing taxpayers $200 million. Prostitution is a crime with no victims. It's a profession made dangerous only by its illegal and unregulated status. The unregulated nature of this industry is also caused to the extremely high STD infection rates among prostitutes, and by extension, their clients. Sex workers deal with infection rates normally 5 to 60 times higher than the general population. Now, this is mainly due to lack of awareness. With approximately 53% of infected prostitutes completely unaware of their STD infections, fewer than 50% have had a health screening in the past year, and all the while still having sex with an average of 17 clients per week. According to IQ Solutions, an alarming number of prostitutes engage in unprotected sex. Surveys have shown that anywhere from 35 to 55% of prostitutes have had unprotected sex, with 10 to 35% stating they've never used condoms. Sexual assault and harassment are also rampant in this line of work. It's not uncommon, especially with female prostitutes, to experience rape. Now, this is a reason they often engage in pimp or gang affiliation, so they can enforce deals with clients as well as avenge one of their workers that's been raped. It seems like a good enough deal on paper, of course, but in reality, no, because pimps are usually the ones raping the prostitute, leaving them again with nobody to turn to. With that being said, how could we go about legalizing prostitution so sex workers can enjoy safer working environments? The biggest obstacle is legality, so that's what we need to tackle first, both on the state level as well as on the federal. It's only after that we can introduce regulations designed to prevent further infections of STD, as well as establishing legal brothels that provide these very safe working environments. Vice President Kamala Harris has expressed interest in decriminalizing prostitution. Harris is a believer that under the conditions of two consenting adults, prostitution should be legal. However, action should be taken especially on the state level, and it is my belief we look towards Nevada for inspiration. You have weekly STD testing to prevent infections, sex worker registration cards that ensure all prostitutes are of legal and consenting age, and actively fights against the human trafficking industry. These are all things the legal sex industry in Nevada benefits from that we can incorporate for ourselves. All of this is simply wishful thinking if we don't get a law passed to legalize prostitution in all 50 states. Currently, prostitution is illegal in all 50 states, with Nevada being the sole exception, and even then it's restricted to only a few counties. Legalizing prostitution will simply not be enough unless regulations designed to protect both the well-being and compensation of sex workers are implemented. Now, this can be done by unionizing sex work. According to Utility Workers Union of America, unions empower workers to negotiate far more favorable conditions and benefits. They often earn better wages and benefits, while their non-unionized counterparts don't. Unionized members often earn a 28% higher income than non-unionized workers. With unionized and legalized sex work, much of the horrible working conditions as well as the lack of safety net these workers have access to will largely be resolved. It will be the biggest hit to human sex trafficking, effectively crippling their industry, as well as curb the spread of STDs. And if that's not enough and you need financial incentive, you have an entire new taxable industry at your disposal. Taxes that could be used to maintain infrastructure, go into education, and fund public goods and services. With that being said, if we ignore this problem and do nothing, much of the same will continue to happen. Keep it illegal and prostitution doesn't go anywhere. They just operate in the illegal industry. Human sex trafficking will continue to have a market because in an illegal industry, only the most criminal win, actually incentivizing them to continue trafficking. STD rates will continue to remain unchecked, and clients will continue to visit infected prostitutes regardless of serious infection risks. That's just the reality of sex work. I'm talking about a future where a rape victim knows the law will protect them, a future where they don't need to rely on abusive pimps to get by, and a future where they finally can take power into their own hands. Prostitutes that work under pimps often have no right to refuse a client. However, brothels give complete autonomy to their employees. A prostitute working in a brothel has every right to refuse anybody for any reason, and through legalization they will finally be empowered to take control back of their own bodies. Now we could sit here all day talking about what ifs, but nothing will change as long as we don't act. We need to start somewhere, so why not our nation's capital? There's actually a group working to decriminalize sex work in DC and invest back into their communities. Here's a QR code that will take you directly to their petition. They're very close to their goal, with only a little over 100 signatures left to collect. We've established prostitution cannot be deterred. We've established this, and the harm far outweighs any perceived benefit. Legalizing will help so many sex workers today. It will reduce the numbers of victims trafficked as well as curb the spread of STDs. I would rather live in a far more equitable society, which supports workers of all industries. Yes, even the less desirable ones too, and I'm sure you do as well.
Last but not least is Roman Moreno. He's a freshman majoring in informatics with a minor in political science. After graduation, he hopes to go to law school. One fun fact is in his free time, Roman likes to play guitar and make music. He's taking R110 with Professor Katie Shannon, and his speech is entitled, "The Importance of Passing the Dream Act." Let's welcome Roman Moreno.
As many teenagers start to turn 14, many will ask for a new cell phone, a new tablet, maybe even a new laptop. However, let me tell you a quick story of a 14-year-old Mexican girl that asked on her birthday the American dream. The courageous girl walked hundreds of miles a day, ultimately to jump the border to start to build a new life for herself. Now what if I told you that little girl just so happens to be my mom? And finally, after residing in the United States for 30 years, 6 months ago, received her residency status. Immigration in the United States affects everyone. And immigration in the United States is a controversial topic because of the non-existential bipartisan perspectives that go along with it. And it's because of that it has made it to where there's no direct pathway for current and future generation of immigrants to get a direct pathway to citizenship. And I'm no immigration attorney, nor even a politician of that, but I've had the chance as an intern at Bose McKinney & Evans to speak with immigration attorneys and also to research government databases regarding immigration legislation to gain insights of what it means to be an alien in this country. And throughout the course of this speech, I hope I give to you and present to you the issues that are going on with immigration legislation in the United States, propose a concrete solution, and also to make a visualization of what the United States would do if we were to pass any new sort of reform or legislation regarding immigration. And that's why I propose to you the question, the audience. How do we make real change in immigration legislation in modern America? Firstly, we have to give context. In 2012, Barack Obama passed a Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. This is short for DACA. However, the politicalization of this program led to many dreamers feeling vulnerable. Well, according to American Immigration Council, nearly 65,000 students are eligible to apply for DACA. However, those students, alongside any other students that decide to go into the workforce and get accepted, they have to be met with a 2-year renewal process. Every 2 years, they renew their status, and that initial price of even processing those forms are $495. Think about that, $495 without any sort of legal assistance on top of that. This has made it to where dreamers have been eligible to go to work, go to school, and more, simply because of the costs associated with it. And then fast forward a few years, in 2017 there was an attempt to end DACA as we currently know it. And according to immigrationhelp.org, there was an attempt to end DACA, but there was no proper procedure behind it. This is why the Supreme Court struck this down. But they never clarified whether or not the US in the future could end DACA. And this is an issue. The democratic system in the United States involuntarily makes dreamers vulnerable. And this is critical as we start to make conversations here today, because these issues are becoming more and more prevalent in modern America, especially regarding immigration legislation. And with these issues, there needs to be a concrete solution. And that concrete solution is to pass the DREAM Act. Now, the current draft of the DREAM Act is S-264, and will make the DHS to cancel any sort of removals and grant permanent residential status for any dreamer. But they need to be met with those 4 conditions that they have listed. Is to have entered the US when they're 17 years or younger, have also resided in the US for 4 years consecutively, then have received their specified education requirements, and then lastly, now been convicted of any crime. And this has been on table talk in Congress on multiple occasions. However, it's been dropped many, many different times. But it started a spark of conversation though. And according to USCIS, concluded that over 351,000 individuals had applied and or renewed their application. However, 25,000 individuals and or 7% were rejected. Now I want you to think about those 25,000 individuals. 25,000 humans, not immigrants, not aliens, humans were denied the chance to better their lives and their families. And it makes it even more important that with this concrete solution, that it's passed thoroughly to ensure safety for many immigrants in the United States. And with that, how would the US look like if it did pass the DREAM Act? Well, the US would benefit financially, of course, but new mental health resources can finally be created and new habits for immigrants. And according to American Immigration Council, nearly 2 million dreamers can apply for permanent residential status if the DREAM Act were to be passed, with nearly 1 million more if the DREAM Act outlines sort of specified education requirements. Next thing you know, this is not only a social policy, but also a stimulus policy, when nearly $9,000 per dreamer can finally be racked up for federal programs. And then, according to the National Association of American Policy, concluded that the net profit of individuals, of immigrants going into the United States over the next 50 years would be $407 billion. And even with these economic benefits, new mental health resources and habits can be created amongst immigrants. According to American Psychiatric Association, immigrants are at a higher risk of PTSD, discrimination, microaggressions, and more. It makes it even more important that the DREAM Act gets passed, simply because it can start to create social change. It can change the meaning of what it means to be an immigrant in modern America. And as we sort of conclude today's speech, I'd like to thank you so much, and also to thank you to not only listen to problems that are existing in the immigration legislation, but also to provide a concrete solution to combat this and visualize the United States of today. My mom's story is in the end. It's only the beginning of the hopes and aspirations that we have for future and current immigrants to the United States. This is a policy for the people, para la gente. At the end of the speech, there's a QR code for you to scan. Not only will this help lobby our senators in Indiana, but it'll also help you to provide any economic assistance that you deem fit for many DACA recipients that are renewing their application. Thank you so much.
Our third place finalist is Halima Alouche. Second place goes to Roman Moreno. And our 102nd winner of Speech Night is Connor Phutawon. Thank you all for supporting our contestants in this semester's competition.